Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of Assets Over Money, episode number 6. So, hey, we're talking about consistency, man. That's 6. They said most people don't make it past what, like 3 or like four or 5 episodes or something like that. So we over the hump, man. Hey, so we just gotta keep it going, man, because good things bound to happen. But yeah, today's topic, man, is the philosophy on risk. And it is a solid topic because I think it's right on time. And we'll dive into that a little bit later, specifically why. But I think risk is something that we all kind of struggle with, right? Whether for good or for bad. But before we jump all into that, I guess really wanted to pass it to Kevin because he got some exciting news to share with some of his updates in the multifamily space.
Oh man, yeah, man. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm just glad to be here today. I know, we missed a week. I didn't. I was out on the hunt, man, trying to connect with quality people, man. So it's been good. We got our 97 unit going. We almost have all the cash we need for that, the capital we need. We needed 3.6 million, and we're almost over 90% of that. So it's going, and we're gonna get it closed, and we're gonna be making waves for veterans, man. So we got another 32 unit LOI signed today, which was exciting. It's in Lancaster, South Carolina, 32 units, 2 bedroom, 1 bath units. We're going to be able to put veterans in each unit. So it's amazing, man. I'm thankful. And, I guess persistence always pays off. You know what I mean? Because it was a tough time trying to get into multifamily and, getting the capital you need. But, continuous, just moving forward, man, not looking backwards, not making excuses. I mean, you know how it goes, man. Excuses are tools of the incompetent that build monuments of nothing. So that goes a long way with me. And, it's no complaints right now, man. I'm thankful. All my limbs are functioning. My mind's working properly. I'm in a good place right now.
Amen. Amen. Hey, and you would just say with all that too, man, a lot of risk definitely involved within that, right?
Oh, man. Like the risk that's involved is just, constantly just not wasting time, not feeling like you're wasting time, but, doing that 1% different every day, getting better every day, learning your craft and learning how to put things together, man. I think that just propels you to another level, man. So I'm just thankful, man. Just the risk it's gonna pay off. You know what I mean? So I always know if you're doing things the right way and you have a good strategy, the risk will pay off. You know what I mean? No matter how much money you lose or how much money you have to put up or whatever, in the end, it's always gonna pay off. So it's just it's a whirlwind at times, but when it all comes together, it just makes so much sense for you.
Man, 100%, bro. And yeah, man, I guess just to kind of pair it off, just to kind of jump in there, man. This episode was really, I guess, founded by a quote that we heard by Les Miles. You want to go ahead and say the quote, man? That's actually one of my favorite quotes. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, it's Les Brown.
Les
I'm
Brown,
I'm
excuse me.
I'm a big advocate of Les Brown,
Mhm.
and one of his famous quotes was, "If you can't risk, you can't become your best, and if you can't become your best, then you can't be the best version of yourself. If you can't be the best version of yourself, you can't be happy. If you can't be happy, then what else is there? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So that's powerful for me because some folks are so caught in the safety net and the rat race. It's like they rather just be unhappy and deal with what they're dealing, take a risk and do something different. So it's just that quote has always been powerful for me for some reason, because without taking that risk, you can't become your best. You know what I mean? And if you can't become your best, then you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy out here, then what else is there? So it's just really it's been powerful for me, man, and it's really been a trailblazer in a sense because as we're investing in real estate, I mean that's a risk, right? We're putting our money up, we're putting our time up, um, and we're risking to scale and to increase our net worth and our borrowing power, right? But you just had to have a good strategy, and you got to have quality people around you, man. So knowing that risk is going to be is a good risk, you can't go into it alone. You got to consult with quality individuals.
yeah, no, 100%, man. And I think that, like, I guess just going back to that quote, like that is the foundation of not only this whole episode, but I think it's the point of life, man. Like the whole purpose of life is to grow, not to stay stagnant. You know, I had a coach. I'm sure everybody's heard of this before, but my coach always used to say, "You're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no in between." So chances are, if you're just staying stagnant, you're probably getting worse because there is something you couldn't be doing to improve yourself. And it doesn't mean you just go out there and like hustle, grind, but there's things that you could be doing to improve your mind. You know, like maybe journaling. And when you get free time, you're journaling, or when you get free time, you're listening to something educational or something that'll benefit you, or you're spending time in the word, whatever that it may be, you know, just making the use of your time. But really for today, we got five mini subjects to kind of dive into all about risk, right? And number one on that is risk is the path to growth. And I think at the foundation of risk, and I'll just pass it to you in a second here, but I think the foundation of risk is fear. So I guess question, you know, that I ask myself, why does fear exist, right? So like fear is a natural response to uncertainty, right? But it often points us to areas where growth is possible. So like first response when you're fearful of something is I can't do it, right? And all these different scenarios play in your mind. The first time you get fear, like I remember when I was a kid, I used to be afraid of a couple of things when I was a kid, but I used to be extremely, extremely afraid of the dark and then afraid of swimming. I took swimming lessons and everything, but you throw me in that water, it was something about the deep end that just freaked me out, man. I could stay in the kiddie pools, but anything that go like above the waist, I'm like, yeah, nah, I need to get up out of here. But I'll never forget, like my first time. It was actually a funny story, but the first time I was really, really unafraid of water, I was probably about second or third grade, and I was at my friend's house, right? And we were going to the pool. Now my parents told me, and my parents listened. I'm sorry, mom and dad, but they know the story. But they told me, they said, all right, you're going swimming. You know, Richard, you don't know how to swim well, so don't go into the deep end. And I'm like, okay, I won't go into the deep end. I get to my friend's house, and this is a competitive nature as well too. We go over to the pool. This boy was nice. He could swim, doing laps, doing backflips off of the off the diving board. He's in like third grade as well, second, third grade. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I know I can do a backflip. So I'd go off the diving board, jump, and guess what? Can't swim. I didn't have a fear of water anymore, but I started drowning. And
Yeah,
the lifeguard, and literally, bro, and the lifeguard jumped in. I was trying to grab it on the random people and everything. The lifeguard jumped in, pulled me out. Was like, why did you jump in? And I'm like, I'm not afraid of water anymore. And it's like, they're like, but like, you can't swim, you know, but in my head, it made sense. And that was something that I overcame, but I don't know what just triggered that story, but yeah, I don't know. I'll pass it to you, brother.
so can you swim now?
Yes, I can swim very well, very well.
Okay, good.
Well,
Then see, that
decently
was
well.
your journey to learning. You know what I mean? That was your first experience of learning, bro. So, but that getting over that fear, man. I mean, false evidence appearing real. You know what I mean? So, like, your mind will play tricks on you, and if you can't overcome that, then you'll always be in a position of like negative hypnotic rhythm, right, where you're doing the same thing over and over and not feeling fulfilled. I mean, that's the worst part about it, right? So you know that you have things in your heart. I mean, God puts them in your heart for you to go get it, right? And then you get to the point where you're fearful about it, and you're paralyzed. You can't move, and next thing you know, 20 years, 30 years have passed, and you're still in the same position you was. And that's so regretful for it. For someone like me. I mean, like I can't fathom being the same person 30 years from now, or in the same position I was, 30 years from now as I am right now. That would really, trigger my OCD almost to a
Yeah,
certain extent. So, I mean, we got to be persistent with just, understanding the things that we want and the things that God has put in our heart, and not being fearful. I mean, because when you're fearful, you can't grow. I mean, a lot of people get in jobs that they hate and stay there because they're comfortable, right? Comfort is the enemy of success. I mean, you can't move just being comfortable, right? So we have to be in a state of being uncomfortable all the time, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I've heard that quite a
yeah.
few times, right? You
Hmm.
always got to continue to move forward if you want to grow and really understand who you are. And like I said, I'm thankful for even the times that we failed. I mean, because you know we failed a lot. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? And being able to keep going at it, the persistence and having the faith that everything's going to work out in your life. I mean, because that's what God says, right? So
yeah,
you got to keep pushing forward, and it's like once you take that step, yeah, you might get knocked down, but it's about getting back up, continuing to try and getting better, learning about what you what went wrong the last time. I mean, Thomas Edison, he tried at the light bulb, 10,000 times or something like that before he got, before he came up with the light bulb. So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a combination of failure and persistence, you know what I mean? Being constantly failing, constantly getting back up and constantly getting better. So, I mean, I pride myself on that.
Yeah, bro. And I think with that, man, too, is like there is a big difference between, fear and danger, right? Like a prime example of, right, like me being fearful of the water. It may have been very dangerous for me to jump in, so maybe, not the best example. That's an example of what not to do, right? Danger, jumping in head first, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna be all right. We'll just see what happens. Luckily, I ain't drowned. But
Yeah.
taking risk doesn't mean, being reckless. There's a difference between calculated risk and like
Right.
outright danger, right? So like going to the casino, man, and like betting the house. If you got a paycheck and you betting your paycheck, all on black, that's dangerous. You know what I mean? That's clearly dangerous. There's a lot of risk involved with that does not necessarily have a good upside. But at the
Yep.
same time, if you take a calculated risk, say, hey, same scenario, not trying to endorse gambling at all, but say, hey, my gambling budget or my sports betting budget is $10 this weekend. I'm gonna put $10 down and that's it, because that's how much I put it. And I studied it and I know what necessarily to, what play to play to bet on or what player to bet on, and things like that. That is a more, calculated risk. Or like jumping into real estate. I'm going to buy this house. Or like, for instance, today I analyzed a decent amount of deals. There were deals that I wanted to jump at, but just didn't, just because the upside, I just did not see a good upside for me. Now I could have done it and we could have been okay, but at the cost of me, potentially losing money or losing other people's money, more importantly, is not that serious to say, hey, for like $100 or maybe, 100 or $200 a month, it's not worth that risk. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Having that strategy and having, like I say, folks around you that's already done it, right? I mean, and that's in that position, that's they've already had success through it. I mean, that's what I've seen, like being in the multifamily space, right? It's like it's a big change from residential because you can't so you got to have folks on your team to be able to look after you, and you look after them, and everybody bring their own value to the table. So, I mean, like I had to kind of get over that hump because I had been in a space where, you know, doing residential was almost like hero ball in a sense. You know what I mean? You don't need too many folks. You can do it on your own, and you can make good money off of it. But if you want to scale at a level where I want to scale, you have to be able to utilize other people and be able to leverage those relationships, right? And so I had a big fear of that at a sense. I felt like I could do everything on my own, and I didn't need many people. But once I started learning about commercial, I kind of figured out that, hey, I got to get over that fear of connecting with other people, growing relationships, and really diving into it and being more than just transactional. You know what I mean? Because like when you're on that commercial side, it's like relationships matter, right? And if you really want to scale, you have to kind of get over that fear of playing hero ball every day, and be able to be a team player almost in a sense, because a piece of something major is way more than 100% of nothing.
Yeah. I heard a quote, my boy Jimmy. If I don't think he's listening, but I'm gonna tell him I quoted him on here. He told me last week we were on the phone and we were talking about a couple of different. I was just asking about his investment strategy because he is absolutely crushing it down in Houston, Texas. And I was just
Oh,
asking him about some of the things that he does. And he said, you know what, like I partner on this, everything that I do. There's a lot of partnerships involved, whether it's residential, whether it's mobile home parks, etc. He's like, I'd rather have a piece of a watermelon than a whole grape. And that was like something I was like, damn, that's fire. You gotta write that down. But I was
yeah,
like,
bro.
that is nice. And I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. So like, I don't know, just implementing that I think is crucial. But jumping into number two, because I think we already started jumping into number two. But number one, risk is the path to growth. Number two, fear is a signpost, not a barrier. So kind of just like what you were saying, you had to overcome that fear or that lack of confidence or lack of ability and being like, okay, I can try. I've gotten myself this far. At what point do I, kind of switch it up and maybe, bring some other people in, bring in team or bring in coach or bring in people who are a lot more successful than me than as opposed to just trying to do it yourself. Because I can imagine trying to do it yourself in any arena can be pretty fearful, and you do so much better with a group.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. I mean, I would say that the biggest thing is humility, right? When
Mhm.
you're when you're looking to scale up, right? Because humility is showing like, hey, you can be coachable, and you can, you don't know everything, right? And being able to ask questions, and be able to connect with folks. And but the humility part of it is just knowing that, hey, I don't have all the answers, right? Because a lot of times we tend to think like, hey, I know what I'm doing. That's the worst two words, especially for black folks, right?
Mm.
You tell somebody something, oh, I know. It's always I know, right? When really you don't know nothing. You just you want to know something, but you know what I'm saying, you really don't. So
Mhm.
having the ability to say, you know what, I need help, and I'm willing to, be coachable, and learn from someone that's already doing it and crushing it. And that's major in a sense, because if you're able to do that, you're able to learn way more. You're able to connect with the people that's already doing it, and you're seeing what they're doing, their strategy. So, like, I mean, it makes so much sense versus you going in trying to do it blindly, and you end up jacking it up, and you losing more than you gaining.
Yeah, and that's kind of a waste, right? So, like, I'll say the first step, man, of like anything that's fearful, or a lot of things that are fearful, honestly, it's really when you have fear in doing something, right? Or something seems overwhelming, chances are it's actually good for you to highly consider doing it, right? I've always been taught that there are three different zones that we're in, right? We are in our comfort zone, you're in your stretch zone, or you are in your stress zone, right? 90% of people are in either their comfort zone or their stress zone. Either they ain't doing nothing, not doing enough, or they're doing way, way too much and they are spreading themselves thin, right? Like, prime
Yeah.
example would be people with the New Year's resolutions, man, which I'm glad everybody, that tries to hit the gym on January 1st. It makes me happy. It's good to see all the folks in there. But at the same time, the gym's packed. Become shoot, I'll say by January 15th, it's back to right around normal, right? Just because you went from all right, I'm not doing anything, I'm sitting on my couch, not really doing much at all, not staying active, to I'm gonna try to do XYZ workout 5 times a week, XYZ. You set your goals way too high, you burn yourself out, and now you're back to your comfort zone, right? You didn't
Yeah.
stretch, right? So I think just stepping out of your comfort zone, it is so crucial because that's where growth happens. The growth happens when you stretch beyond what's easy and familiar.
Yeah, man. What I tell you, being comfortable is like the enemy of success. Like,
Yeah.
you can't think you're gonna be comfortable and grow and scale. It's just no way. I used to think I wanted it the easy way when I was younger, you know what I mean? And then found out that if you want the things that I want, you can't. You got to be, you got to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. So you just got to be used to that, right? I
Hmm.
mean, continuous uncomfortability.
Yeah.
That,
In Kappa land, we call the easy way, we call that skating.
there you go. You know what I'm saying? But it's like I heard something too. Like, if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough, right?
Yeah.
So, it's always, you got to continually grow. I'm a big advocate of growth mentality. Um, as I've grown, I've kind of learned about myself that I can't be around too many people that say they can't do things, right?
Boy, can't do it.
That negative mentality, and like, you know, oh, that's not who I am, or I'm not good at numbers, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. That's like almost like an energy drainer for me. You know what I mean? So, like,
Hmm.
I learned that I got to put myself around quality people that are encouraging me, uplifting me, and pushing me towards what I'm looking for, and what my dreams are on the exit plan. You know what I mean? So I encourage all you folks out there, man. Like, hey, don't be a Debbie Downer, okay?
Yeah. And I think you said something right there that's crucial too, because with those same people that like are negative or yeah, I mean just drain the energy. And I promise you, I try to stay around them or I try to overpower them with all my motivation or all my positivity, which definitely gets overbearing sometimes. But I mean, I'd rather be the most positive person in the room, overly positive, than extremely negative. But like a lot of times we have to use failure as as feedback, right? Risks don't necessarily guarantee success, but they do guarantee learning. You know what I mean? You
Right.
can fail, and they always say like fail your way to success. And at the same time, like you said with the Thomas Edison quote, 10,000 times. Nobody talks about the other 999,000 times. They
Right.
only talk about that, or what, 9,999 times. They only talk about the one time that he
Yeah.
was successful.
That's it. That's it. You think about all the shots MJ missed. You know what I mean? The game winning shots MJ missed. He missed a whole lot more than he made. But
Yeah.
folks only remember the ones he made. So it's like you got to continually be persistent, man, and keep shooting. And
Yeah.
that's what I look at it like that. Like MJ, Kobe. I mean, I wasn't a Kobe fan, but you know,
I'm a huge Kobe fan.
I wasn't a Kobe fan. All right, I hate the Lakers, um, but at the same time, one thing about Kobe was he would keep shooting, and you
Yeah.
couldn't. You know, he had no conscience, and that's one thing that I could say that I really liked about Kobe was because he had that mentality, like, "Yo, you're not gonna beat me. I'm gonna go down shooting if I got to." Hey, whatever, dog. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
I
Bro,
mean,
100%.
mentality is like, it's. I mean, it goes beyond basketball. You know what I mean? It's in like every facet of life. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're not gonna beat me. I'm gonna keep shooting no matter what
Yeah.
until I win.
Bro, like another good example I always love too is like, and it's just so simple, man. Because a lot of times, like our biggest enemy is ourselves. We get so wrapped up in our own minds. But like, just think about like babies learning to walk. How many times do they fall, like embarrassingly fall, like just
Yeah,
fall, bump their head on stuff, this, that, and the third, fall backwards, can't get up. But eventually they just keep going, man. They're tenacious. They keep going. They're like you said, like they're unconscious. Like they're not. They have no ability or no embarrassment. They just keep trying and trying and trying and trying until they get it. And then, but so before you know it, they all run around the house. It's
right.
it's just so crazy because like if we ourselves were to just, I don't know, simplify all the things that we have, all of our fears, all of our, I guess, insecurities, and just adopt the same mindset of like a toddler learning to walk, anything is literally possible. We could accomplish so much. But a lot of times we just overcomplicate it, man. We're scared to take that risk and just overcomplicate it.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, the one thing that hurts us is that we're trained to be robots, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even through elementary, middle school, high school, college, we're trained not to make mistakes, right? And trying to be perfect when you're trying to make 100 on your test, right? Or if you're failing, they're looking down on you, right? When making those mistakes is going to make you better. So like we're trained to like as a robot in a sense, right? I call it the Matrix, but at the end of the day, you're be that robot so you can go to work and you can get a paycheck and pay taxes, right? So they're training you to do that, and like they're training you to be a specialist. You can't be a generalist because you're too caught in the moment of being a specialist, right? When we go back to school and we go do that, we become more of a specialist, and it's just it doesn't work because at the end, well, I can't say it doesn't work because some people love that, right? Some people
Yeah.
love being, but at the end of the day, folk, someone like myself, I'm more of a generalist. I know a little bit about a lot versus a lot about a little. And so, we have to put ourselves in a place where we're constantly growing and we're constantly getting better, man. So, you know, I'm just, I'm happy to be back this week, man. I'm pretty juiced up right now.
Yeah, bro, I'm glad to have you back, man. They had me last week. I was doing I live streamed doing like sub two, going over sub two on my little pad. Was
Yeah.
over here making trying to draw because I ain't had no styles with my finger messing stuff up. I was like, dang. So I need my boy Kevin back up here, man. Got to save me when I be messing up. But
Nah,
yeah, man. Going back to that, I guess going back to that piece about the failure piece, bro. And like a lot of people are, I guess, robotic in the sense, which is again fine. Everybody has their own like personality traits. Like I will say one of the most humbling experiences I had was like going to West Point. Just because there's a lot of smart folks that go there. I'm smart, right? Don't get me wrong, but there's some like extremely smart people that go there. I have never failed tests the way I have failed them up at West Point. You know what I mean? You come from high school, all A's and B's. I'm talking about like I'm in physics, math and science don't make sense going together. It still bothers me to this day. But I remember one time I got like a 15 on a quiz, a 15 out of 100. This ain't no out of like 20. It's a 15 out of 100. And I looked and I was like, damn. And I showed and I was like, I showed the dude next to me. He had like an A. I had a 15. So obviously something's not right. But I don't know. I just think back to that. And like once you learn how to fail, it's like, all right, this is what I need to work on. In my case, in physics, it was everything. I got to work on everything. And
yeah.
eventually, started getting better and better and better. And I ain't finished the class with an A plus and nothing. I think I got like a C minus, but a lot better than the F that I had majority of the semester.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got to be willing to fail over and over again, right? I mean, like to be successful, you have to be willing to fail and know that, you know what, failure is not the opposite of success. It's just what comes with it. It's a part of success, right? And I think we get so caught up in thinking that failure is the opposite. of success when it's really not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really just a part of success, and that you have to have that piece. You have to have that failure piece in order to be successful. No one just came out the womb and was like, yo, I'm successful, and that's just what it is. And it
Yeah.
is not. I mean, you look at some of the greatest players ever or greatest people ever. I mean, every facet of life. We already talked about MJ. We talked about Thomas Edison. I mean, everyone that you can even think of that is nearly successful or famous or whatever. They went through a time when they failed, and that helped propel them to get to the place where they were. And so we get so caught up in not failing and being comfortable, and you know, we
Fearful.
we lose sight of what the goal is, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't see working for the same company for 40 years, working in the same cubicle, not getting the recognition that I need, not getting the need. I couldn't see that. I mean, a lot of people are okay with that, right? But like internally, they hate their lives,
Mhm.
you know. And so, like, we know that 80% of people out there right now hate their jobs. So like I don't want to be in that bunch where, I'm working for someone for 30 to 40 years and, they give me a gold watch when I retire. I don't want the gold watch. What I'm
Yeah.
saying? My kids can't do nothing with that gold watch. And so like I'm just, you know, I'm constantly willing to fail over and over again. I'm willing to, walk through the fear to get to that other side. And, it's the reason why, our business is scaling the way it is, because at the end of the day, I mean, we're stepping out there and we know that it's a possibility we may fail, but that's not going to stop us. We know that's just part of the plan.
Yeah. And we can even argue with that. That's like what keeps us alive, like risk and failure, because you can argue, man, that a lot of us, I know what the average age of death, I don't know what it is, but let's just say it's like in the 70s, like 75, 76 or something like that, right? If we're honest with ourselves, a lot of us die once we hit like 55, 60, because once we retire from our jobs, we ain't doing nothing. Or even before then, we're not doing anything. We're just repeating the same loop in the same cycle without any change, like almost robotic. It's like we are deaf. Like we're still able to move and do things like that, but our mind is stagnant. We're arguably, not really doing much. We're not really contributing to society, right? But yeah, capping it on that one, man. I think, yeah. So number one, risk is the path to grow. Number two, fear is a signpost, not a barrier. And then number three, here we go. Small risks create big rewards. So yeah, also you have to focus on like challenging your limits. Well, first you got to know what your limits are, but you got to challenge your limits, right? You discover who you are, by testing what you're capable of, testing your limits.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's almost like a muscle, right? The more
Yeah.
you lift, I mean, yeah, you might strain yourself a couple of times, but those tendons are going to start to tighten up, and you're going to start being able to lift more weights. I mean, it's a process. It's a marathon, not a sprint at the same time. So it's the more you work it, it's almost like your faith, right? I mean, the more you work your faith, the better it's going to get. I mean, so when you go through tough times, that faith, has been there before, and it's built up. It's like, you build. It's almost like equity being built up in a property as you pay it down. The more you pay, the more equity you're going to get, right? So the more you put into your faith, the more strong your faith is going to get. I mean, it's the same thing with being fearful, right? And being able to get over these obstacles, right? Because the more you're able to, it's almost like how people say I have a high capacity for drinking, and they can just drink all night, right? And they've drank so much that they can't get drunk as fast. But at the end of the day, it's just like, faith is the same way. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And then next thing you know, I mean, you're going through obstacles like it's nothing. You know that a mountain is going to come. You're not worried about it too much. I mean, I used
Yep.
to get really upset really quickly, bad temper, bad attitude. But now, knowing who I am, knowing, my limits, I know, what makes me tick, what makes me not tick. And I know how to kind of calm that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy to think about it like that, but I'm at a place now where I don't get too upset too quickly. I don't get, thrown off guard. I know how to calm down, think about it, take a second. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of overreacting. And overreaction used to be one of my biggest hurdles.
Yeah.
And I would overreact and just come back so quickly, thinking that I know what was needed to be said, and it was just an overreaction. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, bro. I think you said something that was, bro, something super, super powerful that actually made me think of a quote that quote I was listening to the other day in my book. I read the Daily Stoic every day by Ryan Holiday. One of the things he was talking about, especially when you're talking about faith there, right, and growing that faith muscle, and like once those mountains come, it's like, all right, like what's next? Because it's all part of a plan. Is understanding that our life is already ordained, right? I mean, God already knows what's going to happen before we know it's going to happen, right? One of the things he said here was when one has a belief in a greater or higher power, be it God, then there is no such thing as an event going contrary to plan. And that
Right.
was something that gave me chills because it's like, regardless of what's going on, that's exactly what's supposed to happen. And and regardless of what it is, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, right? Good. It's supposed to be there to teach you something. It's either a lesson or a blessing. And a lot of the lessons end up being blessings in general, right? So I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that, man. That was some power, some high level stuff, man.
Nah, man. Hey, bro. I mean, you pull it out at me, bro. But I mean, just being able to be content in those situations, no matter if they're up or they're down. I mean, it just goes a long way because you just never know. You overreact. You say the wrong thing. You just never know how that can kind of, you know, direct your path. So you have to always be able to be content in every situation, man. And that faith muscle is powerful, man. You know what I'm saying? Just understanding what you just said, like, hey, it's either a blessing or a lesson. And if it's not a blessing, then that lesson is gonna help you get to the blessing. And so
Yeah.
that's that's major, man. And so like folks are seeing this online, man, you need to get that in your head, man. Like failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of it. So be willing to fail a lot, fail your way to success. That's kind of how,
Mhm.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's literally low key like I want to say the story of my life, but the story of how I got to play like football on a higher level. Um, like literally, I remember being in high school. I didn't get on the varsity until I say my junior year, and like because I was smaller, didn't have confidence, right? But what did I do? Like I got consistent. I remember one time. I'm not gonna say everything that my coach said. But I remember one time I was on JV, and he knew I was mad because I saw who was up on varsity, and I thought I should be up there. Pulled me aside one game, man. I missed some tackles, got some deep balls thrown on me. This is my sophomore year. My coach pulls me aside. And he says, "Richard, you're playing like I'm gonna say pansy, but I think we all know what the word is, right?" And I was like, "Dang, that hurts." So I got in the lab, started going to the field every day, started learning what didn't work. Right, we try something in practice, mess up, because that's what practice is for, right? You get put on your butt